Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Minor Details, a podcast where the minor league broadcasters for each of the four Cubs full season affiliates chat a little bit about the last couple of weeks of action for each of their teams. My name is Jason Keff. I'm with the Iowa Cubs. We've got Richie Giuliano with the AA affiliate in Knoxville, Brendan King with the High A affiliate of the Cubs in South Bend, on the road in Fort Wayne there, and Luke Maley, Single A affiliate of the Pelicans. So as we always do, guys, wanted to take a look around what's been going on over the last couple of weeks since we last spoke, and we'll start with you, Luke, in Myrtle Beach. Some big news even off the field for you guys. I know there was a couple of important votes, and the good news is that the Pelicans are going to stick around for a while.
Yeah, there's been a lot of moving pieces really over the past few years. It's been a one-year lease sort of thing here at the ballpark. Very difficult situation because both the county and the city are involved. Now it's only the city. The county has bowed out of things, and I think that makes things a little bit more simple. But it's a 30-year lease extension. They just finished up that finalized final reading that was last Tuesday. So, or I guess this past Tuesday. But yeah, good news. So 30 more years of Pelicans baseball here at the beach.
And then what about the team? Quickly, just, we're winding down toward the end of the first half, and a couple of guys have arrived from the complex. But what are you guys looking forward to as the first half ends into half number two?
Well, kind of as we've mentioned over the past, couple times that we've met, the record doesn't look all that good for Myrtle Beach. But a lot of close games. They've just found themselves on the wrong side of that. And we've seen down the stretch here in June a lot of one-run games. We've won a couple of them. We've lost a couple of them. And those reinforcements that came in from the ACL, a lot of 19-year-old top 30 prospects. We've talked about Ty Salvazine and Yahil Melendez joining. Eli Lovich is the newcomer, the number 30 prospect in the organization. He's been a lot of fun to watch here early on. He's had a couple of big moments in only a couple of games to this point. A very poised hitter. And I think he's a guy that down the stretch in the second half could become a major factor and maybe one of those reasons that the Pelicans may win some of those close games rather than the games that they lost in that first half.
I think similar feelings there in South Bend. I was texting you the other day, BK, and watching the scores, while we're on air in Iowa, you guys seem to have the lead at some point in every game on a nightly basis, and then it's a coin flip from there, but you kind of feel like the team's starting to turn a corner.
Well, that's why there will be no first half playoffs, Jason, for the South Bend Cubs. But with that being said, towards the back end of the first half, boy, the Cubs got hot, winning 4 straight games, 3 straight in Fort Wayne to open up this series. And, from a Cubs perspective, Jason and guys, it really came from the starting pitching, making a huge advancement. And not sure if it's been the same for you guys or not, but starting pitchers have gone much longer for the South Bend Cubs this season. And we talked about it last episode. Tyler Schlafer going to best outing by a South Bend Cubs starter since 2015. 8 innings, 1 run, 1 hit, 1 walk, and 8 Ks. Well, Schlafer did it again. He went 7 innings out in Fort Wayne of scoreless baseball. And actually, Schlafer, along with lefty Evan Oschenbeck, went back-to-back games of 7 shutout frames from a starting pitching perspective. So that's really been why the Cubs have played much better over this stretch. And, keep in mind, with the second half about to get rolling, this is a South Bend Cubs team that's probably playing their best baseball of the season. And the lineup has also been bolstered in a way, getting Felix Stevens back on a rehab assignment. And then also, Jason, your old buddy, James Triantos, who started this year with the Iowa Cubs. And it's good to see Tree, who was a South Bend Cub back in 2023, number 6 Chicago Cubs prospect. And I'll end on this. Boy, the South Bend Cubs infield, it's who's who. Christian Hernandez, Jefferson Rojas, and now James Triantos on a rehab assignment. We're not sure exactly how long we're going to have James, but we're happy to while we got him. And then also on Felix Stevens, out in the ACL, he's 25 years old. Felix went 6 for 12 in 4 games with 4 home runs. So about time he rose up a little bit, got back to the South Bend Cubs, and hopefully he'll be back with Richie in Knoxville soon.
Yeah, it's good to hear some of those names starting to play baseball again. And there's nothing like the feeling for a team that struggled in the first half when things start to click a little bit and the second half is like a week away. It's like opening day all over. Richie, we talked about a couple of big series for the Knoxville Smokies at the end of the first half with the 2 teams that were ahead of you in the standings. It doesn't look like you're quite going to be able to make up the ground, but is it the same thought as the second half approaches?
Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat here. We've all been really competitive baseball games. The last couple of weeks has been on the wrong side of them. Our starting pitching has really carried the way. Just hasn't been able to get that much run support. Antonio Santos is a guy that is a big league experience up in Colorado. He's a double A. Cubs have been pitched really well. And then I think our starting pitcher is Jackson Brady, the guy that's throwing 98 miles an hour consistently through 5 innings. And then I think developed a slider in spring training with the Cubs, and that's been his go-to pitch when he's in heavy count. So, Jason, for you, a guy that might be able to see a rotation maybe at the end of the year, but I think the Achilles heel for the Smokies this year is the extra inning games. They 1-7 in extra innings this year. So when you look at the standings, 5 games back in the first half of the season, you win a couple of those, you're right back in the race. So, we've been playing competitive baseball, just got to put it all together.
Now, Brendan, you mentioned the success of the starting pitching in South Bend. It's sort of been the opposite here in Iowa, where I think I mentioned it on the last episode. With Cade Horton and Chris Flexen in the big leagues now, Jordan Wicks is banged up. Connor Noland is really the only guy in the rotation that's been with us from the beginning of the year. We've added some veterans, Jake Woodford, who we signed from the Yankees, Kenta Maeda, the longtime big leaguer, and it's been kind of patching it together starting rotation-wise, but the bullpen has been probably the best in the International League since the start of May. And the cool thing about the bullpen is it's all guys who have been in the big leagues except for Riley Martin, who is maybe the best of the bunch right now, numbers-wise. And I'll talk about Riley in the next segment here. But the bullpen has kind of been carrying the water. If we can get to a game late within 1 or 2 runs, the offense is good enough to make up that deficit. And the bullpen is certainly good enough to hold the other team at bay. So that's been fun to watch. As I mentioned last time, Lehigh Valley sort of ran away with the first half. There's still about a week and a half remaining in the AAA half. It'll end after a Sunday in Nashville. But the iCubs certainly in a position, depending on what goes down in July with the Cubs trying to go for it this year, we all assume. We'll see who's left in July and August, but certainly a team that has the talent to make a run. Moving on to some of the players that have impressed us over the last couple of weeks, I'll start again with the guy I just mentioned, Riley Martin, who's been with the Iowa Cubs now for 2.5 seasons. The biggest change for him, Tommy Birch from the Des Moines Register just did a big feature on Riley, but he cut his hair, which used to be kind of his main feature. It's still not short, but it's not down on his shoulders. And he told me, I said I remembered him kind of from Charleston back in the day when he was in Myrtle Beach. And he said, well, you might not recognize me because I look like a completely different person. And the good news for the Cubs is he's looked like not a completely different person, but an improved version of himself on the mound this year. I wrote down some of the numbers. It's wild. He's thrown 29 innings this year. He hasn't allowed an earned run since the beginning of April, and he has a 1.24 ERA. But these are the two numbers that are crazy. In 29 innings, he has 44 strikeouts, and he's allowed 7 hits this year against AAA hitters. It's insane throwing a fastball and a curveball that he just doesn't give up hits, and when he's throwing strikes, he strikes people out. He's cut down on the walks. He feels more confident, and manager Marty Peavy told me he was a guy in the past I was comfortable bringing in when we were losing or it was the 5th inning. Now I feel like I can go to him in the 8th, the 9th, in extras. It doesn't matter. He's a guy that he looks forward to having on the mound. So it's been incredible to watch somebody work on things that they struggled with, but still maintain the things that were special about them in years prior. And I think Riley, as the one guy in that bullpen, along with Frankie Scalzo, that hasn't been to the big leagues yet, has a really good shot if he keeps throwing this way to get that out of the way either later this year or early next. What about down in Knoxville, Richie? Who are you looking at? I know you were talking about a bullpen arm as well.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback you, Jason, with a bullpen guy, and it's our setup man in Mitchell Tyransky. What a story for this kid. Really bad timing out of college. Got him out of Michigan State, and then everybody missed 2020. So you approach 2021, he gets Tommy John surgery. So he misses all of 2021, all of 2022. So now you're left with 3 years of not playing any professional baseball. So the Dodgers drafted him originally, then let him go. The Cubs are like, all right, this guy, we saw him in college, one of the scouts saw him. They're like, okay, we got to pick him up. So they immediately grabbed him as a free agent, and he's done wonders as a setup man for the Smokies this year. And what I'm really impressed with Tyransky is his ability against left-handed hitters. Left-handed pitcher against left-handed hitters. They bat 0.91 against them with 19 strikeouts in just 13 appearances. So a guy that has a really good slider that moves away from lefties, Definitely his best pitch to put away hitters. And Tyransky, man, when he comes out, it's been him to set up. And then A.J. Puckett, who's perfect this year, 11 for 11 in save opportunities, which is tied for first in all minor league baseball. So those two guys, when we get a lead late, are our 1-2 punch to win the game.
BK, you're going to go in a different direction. The guy you want to talk about, I think I've seen him at the top of your lineup here quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, and that's Carter Trice.
I'll tell you guys, the power of the walk-up song changed. Since Carter Trice changed his walk-up song last week, he's hit 5 home runs. He's been one of the best players in the Midwest League. By the way, the new song, SOS by Rihanna. It's a banger at Four Winds Field. So, great choice. And no, Carter Trice has been remarkable. He's a Swiss Army knife. He can play literally every position. He was catching last year in the Carolina League with the Pelicans. He can play center field. He can play all 3 outfield spots. He's played some first base for the South Bend Cubs as well. 8 home runs on the year. 5 of them came in the last week prior to us recording this episode. And also, Carter Trice had one of the best moments by a South Bend Cub here this season. The opener in Fort Wayne, we're down 9-8 heading to the 9th inning. South Bend had not had a 9th inning comeback yet this season. Drew Bowser picks up a base hit. Carter Trice immediately drives him in on a long home run over the left field wall in Fort Wayne into their home run porch. And then Felix Stevens added on with a 112-mile-per-hour exit velo home run to stretch the lead to 11-9. Cubs win that ball game. But yeah, Trice, what a start to June. 357 the average. Carter Trice, his OPS in the month to begin, 1,502 OPS. Carter Trice off to a hot start.
I always appreciate, I just looked this up. SOS by Rihanna came out in 2006, and Carter Trice was born in 2002. Somewhere in his life, he must have come across that song, but probably not when he was 4 years old. So that's a pretty good choice, and it's amazing the power of a walk-up song, like you said.
It's magic, guys. It's magic.
All right. Well, you have some magic for us, Luke. Who do you want to talk about down in Myrtle Beach?
Well, there's a number of guys that are certainly honorable mentions on this list. Angel Cepeda just had a 26-game on-base streak come to an end, and that was the longest for the Pelicans since 2023, and Parker Chavers did reach in 27 games. So there was a lot of notable little pieces that guys could have been that representative of who to talk about today. But Cameron Cisneros, for the second straight time, has kind of just forced my hand. Last time we talked, we were talking about his 395 average in the month of May after a slow start to the year. He ended May on a short stint on the injured list. He came back after missing the first 4 games of June, and in his first 6 games, 11 hits, 9 RBI, 2 homers. He's hitting 600 as we speak here in the month of June. He has been fantastic. Couple of nights into his return, his first action back here at Pelicans Ballpark since that stint on the injured list. 3 RBI, and then flashing the leather defensively. He made a couple of diving plays, robbing hits from Hickory Crawdads batters. He has been fantastic. We've talked about him with the hitting coach. The staff here just says he was drafted to be a true hitter out of East Tennessee State. He has been that. He's shown the glove, and I feel like, BK, you might be seeing him at some point over the course of this season if he keeps this up.
That's a great group of prospects to keep an eye on here as we reach the halfway point, the official halfway point of the minor league season, and then, of course, the All-Star break shortly coming up. We'll talk about plays here in just a moment, some of the big-time moments from the last couple of weeks. Luke, we'll go back to you for your moment that you wanted to highlight here over the last couple of games, and it was another guy that just came up and joined you from Arizona that greeted himself and ingratiated himself to the fans very well.
Yeah, Eli Lovich, first trip to the batter's box here at Pelicans Ballpark. 102 off the bat, a base hit to the right side. He ended up 2 hits in his first game. He did the exact same in his second as a Pelican, and that's where that highlight play comes to be. Not as hard of a hit baseball after a couple 100-plus exit velos in his first game, but it was the big hit of the night. The Pelicans found themselves trailing in the middle innings. He went the other way on the ground past the diving shortstop. He drives in his first RBIs as a Pelican, and that was the difference in the ball game. So he went the other way. He has been really impressive. It's a compact swing that has a lot of power to it. as we've talked about time and time again, this is a tough ballpark here in Myrtle Beach to get the ball out of the yard. He hasn't done that yet, but it's been a gap-to-gap approach, and he's just hitting the ball hard on a line consistently. He's been really impressive to watch. A guy to pay attention to at just 19 years old, 11th round draft pick last year out of Blue Valley West High School, so still 19 years old, and in that 30th ranked spot. We may see him climb up those ranks over the coming years as he continues to fill out. He's a 6'4" frame, but I think he weighs in right now at 185, so he puts on a few more pounds, and we might see 20 to 30 type home run power.
You also had an interesting ending that we don't see very often. Have you ever seen a walk-off balk before?
Not in the minor league ranks. I have not been around for the walk-off balk, the balk-off as we deemed it, but last homestand here in Myrtle Beach against the Hickory Crawdads. Pelicans led that game for the longest time. A two-run homer by Cameron Cisneros put them ahead early in that first inning, and they held on to that lead. Kevin Valdez was excellent. 7 one-run innings. He only gave up 2 hits. He's been a really bright spot in the starting staff, a guy that has battled injuries in his career, but he's finally healthy, and he is dealing. And then that game got tied in the middle innings. We come up to the bottom of the ninth, tied at 2. Leonel Espinosa started it with a double. He moved over to third on a wild pitch and then came around to score on the balk. So an interesting walk-off, but a win nonetheless.
Brendan, I think you already mentioned your play briefly, but if you want to touch on in more detail, a big couple of home runs that led to a win on the road.
Absolutely, and a big W. As mentioned before the break, the South Bend Cubs had not had a ninth inning comeback on the season, guys, before the opener out in Fort Wayne, the old in-state rivalry, the Hoosier state rivalry against the Fort Wayne Tin Caps here at Parkview Field. And, again, that inning starts with 1 out. The leadoff man was retired by Fort Wayne. And then you got to credit Drew Bowser, who was facing a really tough pitcher on the mound before pitching change. Bowser able to single up the middle, hard hit ball. And then that brought up Carter Trice. And as mentioned before the break, Trice has got 5 home runs in the month of June, OPS over 1,500 on the month. And since that walk-up song change, he has been absolutely remarkable, and he's taken it on the road now. A line drive home run over the left field wall. As you know, Jason, as a former Midwest leaguer, that wall in left field pretty high up there here in Fort Wayne. And he was able to get it out on a line drive, and then Felix Stevens followed with the 112-mile-per-hour exit velo bomb out to left center. So, yeah, the South Bend Cubs, as we talked about to start the show, the lineup has been packed with some rehab assignments. Felix Stevens and James Triantos. The starting rotation has been absolutely fantastic. Back-to-back games of 7 scoreless innings from Tyler Schlafer and Evan Aschenbeck, and the bullpen has also held up their end of the bargain. So just like Luke was saying, where the South Bend Cubs might have the services of Cisneros soon, the Knoxville Smokies might be getting some help as well from the South Bend Cubs, depending on how this goes, because the Cubs are hot right now, and Carter Trice is igniting it.
I think Richie and I are both going to talk about defense here. Again, we've been on the same page today. Richie, a really nice catch by the center fielder there in Knoxville.
Yeah, we've had some great outfield play the last couple of weeks. Honorable mention was Jordan Wogu, who made a catch down the left field line and slammed into the padding. But it was hard to not highlight this play with Brett Bateman going into the alley and robbing an extra base hit like Superman out there in right center field. And what's been special about Bateman is his everyday play. When we started the season in April, he was playing maybe once or twice a series, but has now formed into an everyday player and the leadoff hitter for the Knoxville Smokies. Consistency has been the key for Bateman, hitting close to 270 this year. And then when leading off innings, he's been kind of the guy to set the table for this team early. Offensively, he's starting to get it back together, but defensively has been playing a great center field down here in Knoxville.
I wanted to talk defense as well. There was a play on the recent road trip for the Iowa Cubs in Omaha. This was a day after 45-year-old Rich Hill one-hit the I-Cubs over 6 innings. That was something to watch. And it gave our older guys a little bit of encouragement to keep playing in their careers. So the I-Cubs needed to bounce back after the veteran Rich Hill pitched very well against them. And on June 8th, they're up by a run, 3-2 in the 6th inning. The leadoff hitter for Omaha is at the plate, MJ Melendez, and he hits a fly ball to the gap in right center field that looks like it's guaranteed to be extra bases and put the tying run into scoring position. But Christian Franklin out in center field, he's been great this year defensively, throws his body out there and puts it on the line to make some catches when he needs to. goes back full speed into the shadows of the right center field wall. And at this point, I'm thinking if he doesn't catch it, it's going to hit off the wall, and we've got a chance for an inside the park home run. But he catches it, reaching above his head, and then crashes into the wall at full speed, and somehow is able to hang on. And the running joke around the clubhouse was, Christian Franklin was fine, but did anybody check on the right center field wall? Because he's pretty well put together, and he was not slowing down at all. But a really great play, one of his probably 3 or 4 web gems this year in the outfield that's made him incredibly fun to watch, not only at the top of the iCubs lineup since Matt Shaw has gone back to Chicago, but also out there in the outfield. We have a couple minutes to go. The College World Series is getting underway, so before we wrap up, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. I think I know where Luke's going to go with this, just based on where he lives right now. But who do you look forward to watching in the College World Series, whether players, and who's your pick to win it?
I gotta go with Coastal. We gotta choose
figured.
the hottest team. They're here in the Myrtle Beach area, so gotta pull with the home fans. So I'll be pulling for the Coastal Carolina group. But I'm really excited to see Murray State play. The Racers there, what a story they are. I love those sort of moments when you see teams' fields, they show it next to Alex Box, and you're like, these teams play the same game, and they're both playing in the College World Series. Love those sort of stories. So rooting for them as well.
Richie, go ahead. Who do you got?
Everybody here is very sour after a super regional loss to Arkansas. And after watching their starting pitching and their offense that they have, I think that they actually have a really good chance of winning the College World Series. But another team that I'm excited to see and who they're going to match up against is LSU. LSU is always a powerhouse in college baseball, one of the best atmospheres at Alex Box Stadium. Those are probably the 2 teams I'm looking forward to, but everybody down here in Knoxville was very upset that Tennessee got knocked out. It was pretty cool, though, because Tennessee came to our stadium and practiced here a day before they left to go to Arkansas because they play at Lindsey Nelson, which is all turf, and Arkansas has that natural grass, so they wanted to come out here and do a practice. So it was really fun to watch them, do some infield and outfield, and they had a great season this year.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those things where my brain is telling me LSU. My heart is telling me Coastal Carolina because I'm not only rooting for Luke and everybody down in Myrtle, but also our old buddy Sam Wiederhaft, who is out there covering things for the chance. But I will say this as well to add this layer. I'm a guy in March. I go to broadcaster spring training, and I do Missouri Valley baseball. So I have seen Murray State. I saw them earlier this season, and that's a super cool story. I saw them at Indiana State, and they were every bit as good in March as they are now, but they obviously were just not getting the hype. So that's an amazing story, and, from my heart, rooting for them. But, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, right? It's just like when you get to the NCAA tournament from a basketball perspective. When you get the Cinderella and they meet the Goliath, how do they live up to it? So it's going to be interesting to see how Murray State does from that perspective.
Christian Franklin and Connor Noland have me convinced that Arkansas is unbeatable. However, I do think their first game matchup with LSU is a scary one because if you fall into the loser's bracket or the loser's side, now it becomes a lot tougher. So the team I do like, they played here in a series against Iowa a few weeks back, is Oregon State. Iva Arquette is going to be a top 5 pick. They're shortstop and a great hitter. So it'll be fun to watch over the next couple of weeks. We couldn't get through an episode without mentioning Sam. I'm glad you did it and not me this time. I know he lives vicariously through us in that regard, but he's going to have a big week in Omaha. So that'll wrap it up for the episode on Marquee. If you want to catch a few more minutes of us talking about some random things in our experiences, make sure you check out the Iowa Cubs social media channels and YouTube, and you can watch the full episode. But thanks, guys. We'll talk to you again in a couple weeks. All right, so now we will have a little bit of fun here with some rapid-fire questions. Brendan, you brought up a walk-up song change, so the obvious question is, when you were playing in your playing days, did you have a walk-up song? And if so, what was it? And if you didn't, or you would change it for your current day, everyday life, what would it be? I'll start. Back when I played, I'm old, so some of these songs you guys may not even know. The first one, you will. My sophomore year in high school, I had Iron Man, and that's a classic. But then for my latter years, I went with This Is the Way I Live by Baby Boy to Prince. And even the moms, the the 45-year-old women in Wisconsin learned the lyrics by the end of the season. So that was a proud moment for me, and I think that would be the one I'd still roll with today.
Yeah, so I I stopped playing baseball after my junior year of high school. Actually, because I knew I sucked, so I wanted to focus on being in the booth. So my high school was big enough to where they did the games, and I actually went from the field to the booth. Anyway, the only time I ever had the ability to pick one, because you couldn't get one as a freshman, was your sophomore year. So my sophomore year walk up was "Do the John Wall," and that was the song of the summer then. In my opinion, it still is now. Would I do the John Wall still? Probably not. Yeah, I don't know. I think so. My thing with walk-ups is I think, obviously you want a cool sounding one, but you want one that the crowd can get into, right? So, which is why I think Trice's is so good with the SOS, like banger, crowd can get into it. Yeah. So, but yeah, do the John Wall.
When I was in high school, I adored Francisco Lindor. That was my favorite player. Growing up in Cleveland area. So mine was, I copied him. It was Space Jam, which in high school I liked, but now that I live in Tennessee, you got more of a country vibe here, and with Morgan Wallen living right down the road, if I had a walk-up song today, it would definitely be a Morgan Wallen song. Probably his new one with Eric Church, number 3 and number 7. I think that'd be a good one to get the crowd kind of hyped. So I think today, yeah, I'd have to go a little Morgan Wallen.
Love it. I was back when I was playing. It was all about being the coolest walk-up song. So the song for me was "Drip Too Hard" by Lil Baby, which I would not choose now. I would probably go the Latin route. I love hearing all of our Latin guys' songs. Over the past couple of years in minor league baseball, I've become a big Mike Towers fan. So I'd probably go right now with "La La" by Mike Towers.
I remember my first ever moment where I felt like a walk-up song was great. I was in college. I went to a Wisconsin Timber Rattlers game when Brett Lowry was coming up, and he had "I'm So Paid" by Akon, and it was just perfect on a stadium speaker. That was a tremendous song. All right, last one for you guys. We have ABS here in AAA. Obviously, the guys have it in spring training at the big league level, and it sounds like Rob Manfred wants to implement that going forward next year if the votes pass. So what are your thoughts on some of the rule changes we've seen over the last few years? Number one, the automated balls and strikes, which I personally love, and I'll tell you why. But also the larger bases, the limit on stepping off the rubber. What are your thoughts on all those things? We'll start with you, BK.
So I'll start with the ABS. It's going to take a minute for me to get adjusted to it. Do I think it can have a place in the game? Absolutely. Am I a little skeptical on it? Yes, because I haven't experienced it as a broadcaster. I'm sure, Jason, you'll touch on it and why it is a good thing, and I believe it can be a good thing. Where I think we get into trouble, again, this is just my opinion, is if it gets to a point where everything is being called from a machine. I think why I love baseball and why I think there's a little purity in the game is because the game was built on human error with the umpire call. And I think human error, as kind of stupid as this sound, has a place in the game in some places, because there have been some big calls over the years that have highlighted baseball, and there have been some huge wins based on calls and huge losses, right? But I do think it has a place in the game, and while I am a little skeptical, I think once it comes along and I can experience it myself, I'll have a better understanding of it. The pizza box bases are awesome to look at. I mean, it's kind of funny to look at. It's like, those are huge. Do those actually create more stolen bases? Beats me. But does the pickoff rule? Yes, because when you throw over twice, that guy takes a massive lead and he's going. So that has no question embraced the stolen base longevity in the game of baseball. So, yeah, I mean, I'm cool with everything. I think for broadcasters, the automatic runner at second rule, it's perfect. I called a 20-inning game my first pro year out in Boise. Our South Bend Cubs pitching coach, George Sthenopoulos, played on that team. I had him as a player, and he pitched in that game. He pitched the 13th and 14th innings. And he goes, yeah, nobody needs to throw the 13th and 14th innings. So Cool with everything. But yeah, I'm interested to see the ABS.
Richie?
I think my favorite rule has been the pitch clock. It's really done wonders to speed up this game. I know in the Southern League, we're one of the fastest leagues in all of professional baseball, averaging around 2 hours and 40 minutes per game. And I think another rule that's been great too, and to touch on BK's point, is putting that runner at second base to start the extra inning frames. Now, this year, I kind of alluded to it earlier in the episode, we're 1-7 in extra innings, so it really hasn't helped the Smokies this year. It's been the opposite effect, but I think it really does help finish games early in extra innings. Like we haven't had one go past the 11th this year. We barely got to the 11th inning. And it also creates a lot of strategy in the game too, because if you're the visiting team, if you want to sacrifice and try and get that runner to third, and then if you're the home team down by 1 going into the bottom of the 10th, do you want to sacrifice and give up an out? So there's also a little chess match being played in extra innings now, which I think is a fun aspect to the game. But overall, I think pace of play has been tremendous this year. It's really helped out the fan experience. All the numbers are up around the league and in Major League Baseball attendance-wise. So I think Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball, they killed it on that aspect.
Yeah, I'd have to echo what both of you guys have said. I'm really excited about the ABS system, and I think BK hit the nail on the head, just in the sense that there is room for human error in the game. I also think that there should be that opportunity for a guy to say, I feel like that was off the plate, tap the helmet, say, let's take a look at that. And I like the fact that they've got into a science where it's quick. It's not delaying things super, super long. And I think it's a really good thing. It's been tough, seeing that introduction in spring training for the big league guys, and then watching big league games now and them not have that opportunity. You watch it as a fan, you're like, that's 2 balls off the plate. How did we call that a strike? And so I'm sure that's kind of frustrating for those guys. And I'm guessing they're probably excited for that. I don't know about on the pitching side if they like it or not. But yeah, I think the pace of play has been really good. I want to leave you guys with a little bit of a question too. We were talking about the pickoff attempts. What are your thoughts on fans booing on pickoff attempt?
I'll touch on that, and then I'll throw it back to you guys to answer that last question. First of all, I think booing on pickoff attempts is one of those things that nobody actually cares, but everybody has done it for 30 years now, so you have to do it. I find it hilarious because their pitchers are doing the same thing throughout the game, and once they steal a base, then you're going to be upset if they didn't do it. So I always chuckle when that happens. It's kind of like as a Bucks fan when people are counting Giannis's time at the free throw line to 10 seconds. Everybody does it now, even though he always shoots it at 8 seconds at this point in his career. So it's just one of those things that people do because we've always done it. As far as the ABS is concerned, I love it. I got a brief taste of it last year filling in for Alex here, but it's pretty cool to watch how different teams use it as well. So just to recap briefly, you get 2 challenges per team. If you challenge a pitch, it's only coming from the pitcher, the catcher, or the hitter. So it can't come from the dugout where they have the TrackMan devices that show them whether it was on the plate or off. You have to do it in real time by tapping your head. You have like 2 seconds after the pitch to do it. And once a challenge is triggered, the umpire grabs a microphone, says the catcher or the pitcher or the hitter is challenging the call. Everybody looks up to the video board. It takes 3 seconds, and a 3D image of the strike zone comes up, shows the ball coming in, shows where it was in the strike zone or out of the strike zone, and then it zooms in and shows how far off the strike zone it was. So it's kind of fun to watch a veteran player challenge a pitch that missed the strike zone by 1/10 of an inch, and you can actually see it measured on the screen. And then you're like, man, the umpires are actually, as much as people complain about them, really good at their job, because when they are missing, for the most part, it's by less than an inch, which is hard to think at 99 miles per hour that you can pick up a strike zone within a half of an inch. So it's been fun to watch. Like BK, Owen Casey told me he doesn't like challenging. He thinks there should be human error, which I thought was interesting from a younger guy, that he doesn't really want to challenge. He saves them for the pitching staff in case they feel like they had strike 3 late in the game. But what's really fun to watch is when you have 2 veteran catchers for each team just challenging pitches that are off the plate by an inch, and they continually get them right. And they'll challenge 6 or 7 in a game and never get them wrong. And I think the best duo for challenging pitches has been Kenta Maeda, who's 37, and has thrown a million times in the big leagues, and then Carlos Perez, who's 34 and has caught as many games as anybody in minor league baseball. The understanding they have of the strike zone and the way that they can tell when an umpire is just off is wild to watch. And I think Moises Ballesteros has learned from Carlos Perez what pitches to challenge it and which ones not to challenge. But I think it's been fun. I agree with all of you that the pickoff limit has changed the game more than anything, because stolen base was kind of fading away from part of the game plan. And then I got to watch Chandler Simpson steal the base. As soon as you threw over, he knew it was over. And you had to throw over, because if you didn't, he was going to run anyways. And so when Chandler Simpson got on, it kind of changed my opinion that, well, it's kind of fun to see it happen, but also pitchers and catchers have no chance anymore when you have some of those guys with elite speed. So it's what they want, right? More excitement, more balls in play, more action. So all of those rules have done at least what the intended consequence was, whether people love it or hate it initially. So Richie and Brendan, if you want to answer Luke's question about the vociferous booing of pickoff moves throughout a big league game.
Yeah, I think it's funny, but to BK's point earlier, it's actually important now when they throw over, because you only get 2 chances. And for a lot of guys in this league especially, they like to run. I know the Smokies lead the league in stolen bases. So when the opposing pitcher throws over, it's very important, because you only get 2 opportunities to pick them off. Now, we have seen a lot of pickoffs this year as well, because hitters or runners aren't expecting it as much anymore. But it is important. I just think it's funny, everybody's so antsy now in the game of baseball that they want the next pitch to be delivered quickly, and some guys take a long time. Some guys are very short to the plate. But yeah, I find it humorous as well.
I do too. I mean, being from the Chicago suburbs, I grew up going to Wrigley, and they Cubs fans in the first couple rows will tell a pitcher what they think. There's no doubt about it, and especially Wrigley now, but old school Wrigley, there were no holds barred. It was anything and everything was being said from those first few rows. So growing up out there, you pick up some English when you're like 10, and you ask your dad on the way home. It's like, what did that mean? It's like, well, probably best not to go into that.
There you go. Well, I appreciate the time, guys, as always. Enjoy the College World Series before our games every day, and have fun at the end of the first half, and then get going in the second half, and hopefully we'll have some playoff races to talk about after the halfway point. But we'll talk to you again in a couple weeks.
Thanks, fellas.